Do you consider what happened in the Nets-Celtics game last night a fight or a pushing contest?
It's a pushing contest. There was no fight.
It's driving me nuts.
It's not a fight.
It's driving me everywhere you look. Brawl in NBA. You're no.
There used to be brawls in the NBA. There used to be enforcers, just like there were enforcers in hockey that would come off the bench and immediately get into a scuffle, try and change momentum. They had that in the NBA. If you want to look up something nasty, look up what Washington did to Rudy Tomjanovich's face. The guy played for the Lakers. Last name, I believe it was Ted Washington, maybe. Last name definitely Washington. Came off the bench in a Laker game. Lakers were playing, I believe, the Houston Rockets. Rudy Tomjanovich was the point guard. Came off the bench, literally ran into the game and punched him right in the face. Literally shattered Tomjanovich's face.
They were actually just talking about that on Boomer Carton this morning.
I didn't hear them talking about it, but if you watch it, it's something you'll remember. Mm-hmm. But that's the way basketball used to be. Basketball used to be a physical sport. A
lot more physical.
A lot of sports are going non-physical. Even hockey's taking away some of the hitting. Mm-hmm. Football's taking away from hitting quarterbacks and receivers.
Defenseless receivers.
Yeah, all sports are going this way. Basketball was just the first to do it, and it started in the 90s.
The
is when it really started.
Auburn Hills.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Mm-hmm.
The brawl at Auburn Hills.
Well, I will say.
I'm just saying that fight to me is the.
I'm saying you remember fights in the NFL or I mean in the NBA. I mean, the classic fight I remember is the Heat. Knicks, when you got, Van Gundy hanging onto Alonzo Mourning's leg and people are flying and fists are flying. Well, that's a brawl. What happened last night was just a skirmish in my mind.
Well, there's a few others you didn't mention there because the heyday of the NBA fights, I can remember, what was it, the 94 playoffs. It was the Bulls and Knicks. Ron Harper and Derek Harper basically threw themselves into the stands fighting in the front row. There was that. There was 2 years before the Jeff Van Gundy hanging on Alonzo Mourning's incident where P.J. Brown body slams Charlie Ward and all the Knicks players coming off the bench and they all get suspended for games 6 and 7, costing the Knicks the series. I do agree with what Erich said that, they were trying to take away the fighting before that, but like David said, that was basically the capper there. Like they had started trying to regulate it before that, but that just put an even greater emphasis on that.
That was arguably the worst thing I've ever seen come out of sports. That fight.
I remember thinking it was like I remember thinking I was watching.
Well, that's the one where they climbed into we got
our
I didn't even think that was that bad because I'll tell you what, if I'm sitting there, somebody hits me in the head with a beer, I'm going up there.
Oh, see, that's the thing. That
guy had no right to throw what he threw and incite what he incited. Artest wasn't coming up and picking on that guy. That guy decided to push Artest buttons. And if I'm that guy, I'm climbing in the stands, beating the piss out of him, too.
And that's fine.
I can agree with that. You shouldn't have laid on the table, though. You left yourself open. And I agree with everything you just said, but still, you
left yourself open.
Table.
Now, what do you he's laying on the table trying to calm himself down.
That looked like it was kind of a taunting lay down to me because if you remember, he had gotten into a
taunting lay down.
All right, guys.
Yeah, no.
I'm not wasting our show time to argue about a fight that happened 15 years ago. All right, let's just stop there. We're talking about last night. A fight that happened 15 years ago is irrelevant right now. For those of you that are out there listening and that does not know what happened in last night's game, it was a somewhat of a flop, somewhat of a push by Chris Humphries on Kevin Garnett. Rondo came up to Humphries, shoved Humphries. A little more shoving ensued. Guys tried to break it up. That's it. There wasn't any fists thrown. There were no punches thrown. Humphries has some scratches on his legs. That's about it. It wasn't a fight. We're talking about what we consider real fights from back in the day that were real fights. There are numerous ones you can look up. Heats, Knicks, especially Allen Houston, Alonzo Mourning dragging Van Gundy on the floor. That is arguably one of the funniest looking fights I've ever seen, but really just the Van Gundy part. The Palace of Auburn Hills is the other fight we're arguing about. But the main point we're trying to get across to you guys is the simple fact that last night's fight was not really a fight. It was a shoving contest. It does not deserve the how do you say, attention it's really getting. Put it that way, all right? It wasn't really a fight. I don't think any of these guys end up suspended. I think you see fines, maybe a game suspension. But if there's anything more than that, then I think the NBA is overreacting. Do we think that's a fair statement to say, gentlemen? If there's more than a game, do you think guys should be suspended from last night?
I think if anyone's going to get suspended, it's going to be Rondo because he started the thing. From what I've heard, because it's not his first offense, he could be looking at a 2 to 3 game suspension, which I think is justified because this is not the first time he's tried starting things like this in games. That's the only thing.
Fair enough. Eric, what do you think?
I don't know. Really didn't do anything for me.
No, I'm asking you, do you think anybody from last night should be suspended?
Yeah, no. Well, why suspend them for not fighting?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't even think that's, a fair question to ask, because what are you suspending them for? What's there a suspension for? I mean, no punches thrown, no craziness. There's nothing there to suspend him for.
Yeah,
nothing there to even consider suspending him
It seems that the only agreement we got is what Mike said about maybe suspending Rondo since he was the one that went after Humphries after the foul. Even Garnett didn't even get up and go after Humphries. He actually looked over at the ref like, where's the call? So I personally look at this situation and say to myself that it's a moment where, you're talking about pretty much guys just shoving each other, and then the rest of it is everybody just trying to break up the fight. And there's no reason, in my opinion, for you to get rid of everybody. I could see a Rondo suspension, but at the same time, the man's going to stand up for his teammate. So, it's a rock and a hard place, I think, for the NBA, because I think when you actually take the time to calm yourself and look at it, it really wasn't too big of a fight. Or it really wasn't a fight. It was more of a shoving contest where guys got a couple scratches on their legs, a.k.a. Chris Humphries, which looked hysterical, by the way.